How's it going, everyone? It's Juan Romero here from Switch Watch, back with another review. Today it's Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus. Let's find out if it's a good port and if it's worth your hard-earned cash. Let's get into it. The story carries on directly from Wolfenstein The New Order, which I played and completed on Xbox One back in 2014, so I have a little bit more context of the story going into this game. However, for those that don't, you get a 5-minute or so recap on the story from the beginning of this game, so it takes a little while for you to get into the action. This game puts a lot of emphasis on its story, which I very much appreciate, as for me as a player it gets me to care about the characters, and I became invested in making sure I rid the world of the enemies in this game, in this case being Nazis. Some of the enemies here will send chills down your spine, and they are to be feared. For those who have not played the first game, it may be a little bit more difficult for you to get invested into the story, seeing as it is a continuation, and that's a little bit of a shame. It would have been nice had this been sold as a double package game, having both part 1 and 2 to play through. It's not the end of the world though, and the game does do a fine job, if you haven't played the first one, of getting you glued to the game pretty quickly and up to speed. William BJ Blazkowicz is still as cool as ever, starting out this game in a wheelchair and still being a total badass. The story is gruesome in places and very violent, which for me is fine, but this is a very much adult orientated game, which may offend some, so be aware. If violence is not your bag, then you may not enjoy this one. If you've played the first game, then you'll know what to expect here. The Nazis have won World War II due to having access to some fantastic pieces of technology. BJ is an American soldier who was decisive in striking a killer blow to the Third Reich at the end of part 1. Now, Fru Engel is now as nuts as ever and is willing to do anything to get revenge for the last encounter she had with BJ, which obviously left her a few sandwiches short of a picnic. She, for me, steals the show as the villain. Absolutely terrifying on-screen performance that was absolutely chilling. The sadism she displays on screen is enough to make anyone want to put this sick puppy down, and it gives great motivation to do so as you lose many of those close to you in the war. The story for me is one of the best implementations of a single player campaign, and one which is not afraid to tackle some heavy hitting subjects. An adult game this certainly is, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed. In terms of gameplay then, let's get straight into it. This is an FPS with big guns, cabin mechanics, and of course taking down Nazis. If you enjoyed Doom, then assume you will enjoy this, although here I would say the story is more fleshed out and compelling. If you are wondering what differences there are between this version and the rest, there isn't much. This is a straight port, and it's without any of the DLC which has come out from other systems. The port, I might add, has been done superbly well. Be aware that this is going to take up a massive 23 or so gig of space, so an SD card may be necessary for those wondering, and I've got about 3 hours battery time in handheld mode. If you enjoy using gyro controls for your FPS games, then it's been implemented on this version, so you're going to love that. And if you enjoy taking your games on the move, you cannot do that with anything else right now, so that's the reason you're going to consider this version, I assume, and why you're reading or watching this review right now. Now, for those of you that only own a Switch, or for those of you that have not played this or read reviews on the game, let's get into what you're in for. The game doesn't play much differently to part 1, only here there are a good few more weapons added to your arsenal. The firepower in this game is so satisfying, especially the specialized weapons, which are seriously heavy and require recharging most of the time, and they do slow your character down. These can be chucked on the floor when you're done with them and are not part of your main weapon selection. The laser whir, I don't know how you say that, for example, allows you to fire an epic orange laser which allows you to turn enemies into carbon. But this is only available if you choose the Fergus timeline at the beginning of the game. Different weapons appear in the game dependent on which character's timeline you choose. The Diesel Kraftwerk, a flamethrower of sorts if you choose the Wyatt timeline instead of Fergus. So it's an important consideration in choosing who lives and who dies. In terms of how you tackle your enemies, there are differing ways you can do this. I like to creep up behind them with my trusty hatchet, chop off a bit of leg just beneath the knee, and then bury that hatchet into my enemy's back. It's always a very satisfying way of taking them out, as they can't see what's coming. If you prefer to go in all guns blazing, well, of course you can do that too. Just be sure to be armed to the teeth and to let those used shells fly out of your assault rifle. You can also face your enemies face to face and go full hatchet on them if you want to, which I love doing just for the crack and a little bit of fun getting my hands dirty. The combat is truly satisfying, feels amazing, it's gruesome, gory, and just how I like it. In certain environments you can use stealth, where you have to be wary of the officer raising the alarm. Once raised, lots of enemies will come at you, which is fine if you can handle it. If not, then stealth is the way to go, but this is not what I would call a full stealth option, as you can't hide bodies or anything like that, for example, like you can in Payday 2. However, it's great that you can sneak kill, as it's a nice change up from time to time. Other enemy sorts consist of flying mechs, huge boss mechs, and scary looking men in large mech suits, which will take you down in no time at all if you're not careful, so expect to die a fair bit. Staying alive is challenging for sure, especially on those harder difficulties. While BJ is kitted out with suit of armor, he can't take too many bullets. Here you need to make sure you take cover in the appropriate places, move around and pick up armor and health kits. There's no running and gunning here, guys. It's seldom successful. You'll often get flanked with more open areas having multiple routes for you to reach your next objective. You can jump and duck through parts, so always be on the lookout. It's what makes this franchise so good for me. For completionists, it pays to explore the levels to the full, picking up intel and collectibles along the way. You can level up passive stats, or perks as they're called in this game, which give you certain advantages, and these are completed by completing certain challenges within the game, like getting 25 headshots, for example, or taking down, I don't know, 20 guys with a hatchet. This is all automated, so you don't have to assign points and upgrade skills. There's also a mini game called a Wolfenstein 3D, which you can play if you find the arcade machine to play on, which is a great little nostalgia trip and actually quite good fun. Let's move on then to visuals and performance, which is quite important in this one, I feel. If you're here to compare graphical fidelity with a PS4, Xbox One or PC, then ladies and gentlemen, you're in the wrong place. No disrespect, but this version doesn't match those consoles or PCs in that department. I'd be more interested, if it was me, in whether it runs smoothly in both handheld and in docked, and the answer is a resounding yes, it does. Other than that, the game is the same as it was when it was released on other systems back in late 2017, so for me, it is a win in the performance department. For the longest time, we've wanted these third-party games to come to the Nintendo Switch. Many of them are coming over, so we can't have it all. You got to take a hit on the fidelity for the convenience of on-the-move gaming. Game performs admirably. It's like one of those lesser fancied World Cup teams turning up on the world stage and producing the performance of a lifetime and knocking out the Germans. The Germans are strong, physical. When they play well, they purr like a Rolls Royce. It's the same with the PC, PS4 and Xbox One. The game on those systems, of course, looks better on those powerhouses, and on Xbox One X and PS4 Pro or a high-spec PC, the game looks absolutely stunning, and those textures are, of course, really detailed. This isn't running at 60 frames per second either, but boy has the Switch version turned up to play, as the game runs smooth as silk in both handheld and docked. Even though it's at 30 frames per second, I didn't notice many dropped frames, only when with many enemies and I went in with the hatchet, so Panic Button yet again deserve massive amounts of credit here. The advantages here is playing on the move, of course, and that's what you're going to use your Switch for. Then the fidelity is not going to matter too much. It's even less noticeable on the smaller screen anyway. So the Switch has its own weapons that perform with the big boys on titles like these. And ultimately, you're going to choose this version if portability is more important to you than anything else. And for me, that's a win any day of the week. I did come across what seemed like a bug when I paused the game. Sometimes I'd not be able to control anything. So to sort that out, I just needed to do a system restart. Let's move on to audio then. Everything in the audio department screams blockbuster, from the excellent voice acting of the characters to the fantastic sounding weapons. Everything here is what you would expect from a AAA title.
Go on. What are you thinking in a moment like that? When you know you're losing everything you love. What are you thinking in a moment like that, huh?
but it's the way the actors and actresses perform, the voice acting, which for me really stands out in the game and had me really engrossed from beginning to end, as it's absolutely stellar. In terms of how the weapons sound, they're awesome, to put it mildly. Bullets will ricochet, men will scream, and shooting mechs will have that satisfying bullet to metal sound. For me, the audio truly shines in the non-combat areas where the atmosphere created is chilling. Meeting new characters, gathering intel and forming plans all feels like you're there. It's outstanding. Let's move on to value. It is a subjective thing, value. We know that what one will see as valuable will not be for another. You can buy this game for under £20 on other consoles and PC right now. I will say this right away. If you own one of those systems and portability or motion controls is not important, then buy it on one of those for a great experience and better graphical fidelity. If you want portability and flexibility and convenience, or you don't own another system, then this is a key consideration for you paying the £49.99 being asked here. I think that would have been a fair price had this been a brand new game right now and it was released on multi-platform across the way, but you know, it's almost a year old. It can be bought cheaper elsewhere, so that's what you would have to consider. It's a little harder to swallow now. I would have liked to have also seen Part 1 bundled in for the price to make it a really compelling overall package. In terms of time and how long this game will take you to complete, you're looking at 10 to 12 hours to complete the main story and around 20 hours or so for completionists. You have different difficulty levels to really up the challenge, as well as choosing which timeline to play through, i.e. choosing Fergus or Wyatt, and essentially this will change the dynamic of the cutscenes as well as which powerful weapons you can play with. There is also a couple of hub missions which play out slightly differently, so you may want to come back to the game to play the campaign again to see those differences. Both timelines have their own merit and are both worth checking out. On to my verdict then. Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus, is the best single player FPS on the Switch right now, in my opinion. It has a fantastically gruesome story which touches on some touchy subjects, but is also funny at times. The gameplay is as fun as ever and isn't compromised in any way by being a bad port on the Switch. It's a good port. Graphically, of course, it can't compete with the powerhouses out there, but it doesn't need to. The game, I am certain, will still sell like hotcakes, and deservedly so. It's a great port of a very good game indeed. An 8.5 then, out of 10. If you're new here and you enjoyed this review and you like gameplay videos, then check us out, hit that subscribe button, and would love to notify you of our new videos. What do you guys and girls think of this review, and what do you think of the game? Are you looking to pick this one up? Let me know in the comments section down below. You might be playing it right now. I want to hear your opinion. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, then hit that thumbs up, and don't forget to check out our website down at www.switchwatch.co.uk for written reviews, features and news. My name is Juan Romero from Switch Watch. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.